What's up? I'm Troubleshoot. It's Thursday, the 24th of July, and if you're a fan of dark skins, this week's brand new Rust drops are going to be pretty interesting. So, without further ado, let's check out this week's brand new Rust skins, check them out in-game, and of course, speculate about prices. This week, we've got 10 brand new limited items, although only 9 in this rotation. This Hope for the Day door is part of the brand new Twitch drops, which you'll find a link for down below. I'll run through those skins as well. It's part of the Fancy Orb Global Warfare 3 streaming event. The rest of these skins here are part of this week's items, and those are what we'll be going through here. As you can see off the bat, most of these are dark, and changing out of South African rands, you can see the actual prices going on here. The most expensive item this week by far is the Hope for the Day door, but as far as I understand, all of the proceeds from this go to charity. If you wish to purchase this, it won't be tradable, it won't be marketable. It's similar to a Twitch drop, it's just that you have to pay for it. The next items this week are for $3, the Popstar garage door, which is really similar to anime looking skin doors which you've seen in Twitch drops before. After Death AR, a beautiful gold AK. Then for $2.50, the Sinotype Meds box, continuing the growing Sinotype series. And of course, the Neon Pies fridge, which was pretty unexpected. Meat and veg, sure. Pies, it's brand new. I actually haven't crafted one yet, but we've got one on sale as a skin, which is pretty cool. We've now got 3 brand new Neon fridges. Then beyond this, $2 the Stump box, and finally, the HQM Icepick. Then for $1, the cheapest items this week is the Island Assault Team Hoodie, Team Pants, and Pirate Boots. So let's check out all of these in game, and then we'll speak about market price, speculation, and things like that. So let's get into it. Starting off with this week's clothes, we've got the Island Assault hoodie and pants, which as you can see are really gray blackout clothes. There's nothing shiny on them. They're just this beautiful black gray material, which of course fits very well with the gray armor which we've seen before from the same set. You can see these knee pads here, as well as this little insignia on the side, which I'm pretty sure we've seen on the rest of the armor. Besides that, there's really not much else. Well, we've got elbow pads there as well. The rest of this is just this very flat, plain, dark material, which, as you'd expect at nighttime, is going to vanish really well. It's just one solid material, so in pure darkness, it'll vanish. And of course, illuminated by light, there's nothing too weird looking about it. No lines, no glowing spots, nothing. It'll vanish very beautifully into the dark. The same goes for this week's boots, which if we zoom down here, are these pirate boots for $1. These, of course, are continuing the funerary set, or at least somewhat similar. We've got pirate-themed things, I assume to do with the upcoming naval update, I think next month. If we show these boots in all of their glory, zooming into them, this is what they look like. You can see this bone of a foot showing here in this torn-looking boot that's very cobbled together and, I guess, moldy/old. It looks like it could have been found in some kind of a pirate cave attached to a skeleton. I really like how it looks. It's super unique, and the detail with this torn fabric is really cool to see, showing the bone underneath. It's one of the most unique shoe skins that we've seen thus far, and of course sporting a trail to a buried pirate treasure, so I guess this could be some kind of land or something like that. I don't know, I really like how this thing looks. It fits in really well, and I assume with the naval update, it's not really going to see a huge bump in price, I would think, but it's nice to see some pirate-themed skins. I much prefer these over jungle-themed ones. Moving on from clothing, we've got 2 items that we can hold, the first of which is this golden AK over here, the After Death AR, which again is some sort of a pirate-themed AK skin with golden skulls and this really nice polished gold kind of look to it. This thing looks like it's made out of solid gold/solid brass with skulls and things like that stuck all over it. On the very front, we've got some roses here by the front of the barrel. All the way to the side, these skulls with a very nice and tasteful 3D effect that I think looks really cool. I love how this looks. It's super detailed and of course very basic and easy on the eyes. If we have a look from the first person, this is what it looks like. We can see the AK here. We inspect it in third person as well, so nothing too different here. And of course, if we look at the back of it, there's a skull back here, as well as another rose above it. If we scope in, you can see that this is a pretty generic AK skin. When it comes to the iron sights, there's nothing too crazy, nothing obvious removed that I can see, and of course the very front iron sight is just a plain single color. There's no drops of paint or anything on this weapon at all. If we flick over to nighttime, you can see exactly how this disappears. Let's turn this off. There we go. It vanishes completely. It's very difficult to see exactly what's going on here as there's no obvious markings, glowing spots, or anything like that, which we're seeing especially noticeably in an upcoming skin, part of the aviation DLC or something like that. We'll see probably next month or so. A brand new pistol with some beautiful glowing iron sights, but that of course is for another time. This AK looks pretty dark at night and vanishes completely. Then, if we flick back to daytime, the next item we have is of course this HQM Icepick over here, which has this obsidian looking texture at the very top. Not too sure what it's supposed to be, and it's just a very plain, simple, smooth metal type texture, which I guess could have been forged and smoothed over time with use. If we have a look from the third person over here, you can see it's not so much a blackout skin as the picture might suggest. It's again just a weird way of rendering the metal texture slash material that makes it look more dark than it actually is in game. There's nothing too crazy about this. It's just a very simple plain Icepick skin that I think looks okay. But again, I do like a bit more detail. If you're more of a minimalist when it comes to rust skins, wanting things looking just clean and plain, it's a pretty cool option for that. The handle down here is just more of the same. There's this sort of rubberized grip that my fingers are vanishing into. If we flick over to nighttime, you can see exactly how this thing vanishes. There we go, completely vanishes in the dark as you'd expect. Nothing too crazy here. Moving on from this, we've covered all of the wearables and items that we can hold. We've only got buildables left, and the first of which is this beautiful small box over here. It's nice to see one that isn't a hollowed out crate. This over here is the stump box, which as you can see is made to resemble a tree stump. It's a very simple, very minimalistic, nice looking skin that obviously accomplishes exactly what it sets out to do. It's nice to see a fully opaque, normal small box skin, as it's been quite a while since we've seen one of these with the huge uprise of new crate type skins. I like how this thing looks. It's super simplistic, but of course there's nothing too crazy about it. Something that people are going pretty crazy over is the Sinotype box, which this week we now have another neon box, the Sinotype Meds box. This, of course, has the Cadicus across the top, which is the snake wrapping around, let's see here, a staff, which we can sort of see here, except that looks a bit more like a cup than a staff, I would think. And of course, we've got some more of this foreign-looking writing, which, thanks to someone for pointing it out to me, is just a fancy way of writing text. This over here just says meds, so it's exactly what you'd expect. And if you place it sideways, it basically says meds in the same weird font across the side here, made to look like a Japanese / Asian type of language, except it's obviously just English with some nice styling. This thing looks super cool, and of course at nighttime it glows very obviously, so you know exactly what you're working with. The previous ones that we've seen have pretty well skyrocketed in price, and of course this one might do the same. It's very nice to see another growing set of boxes that we can get for a lot cheaper than the existing neon boxes, which have basically conquered the market completely. Again, we'll see how this thing looks just now. If you've had a look at the previous two videos, you very much understand how this item looks in game. Then one of the final simplest items that we have this week is of course the brand new Pies fridge, which is part of said neon set, and of course it does exactly what you think it is. It's the same that we've had the previous 2 weeks with the vegetables and the meat fridge. This one just says pies across the side with a pies icon, which I would expect to vanish at nighttime, as you would think. This week's got a blue neon light across the pack. It's pretty much a copy paste in all regards to the previous neon fridge skins that we've seen, just with the text, color, and icon for the item swapped out. If we flick over to nighttime, you can see how this thing looks. The pie almost vanishes completely in the darkness, leaving just the pies text here. If we flick over to here, you can see it a bit better. It just says pies, that's it. Obviously, if you like the previous two, this one's going to be yet another fan favorite with a brand new item, which I haven't seen too much of in game just yet. Then the final item this week is the Popstar garage door over here, which, as you can see, features the same Popstar that we've seen on multiple weapons in the past. If you know exactly how the previous ones look, this is just a much more blown up, scaled up, good looking Popstar door. Of course, if we flick over to nighttime, you can see these light bars across the side and the top work exactly as you'd expect, illuminating the door in a very pleasing way. It's not too bright, it's not too harsh. I can definitely see this fitting in pretty much any any base type where you want a QC Popstar anime type girl looking over your base. On the front, you can see these two lights on the side, a bit of glow from the top, and of course on the back, the roll-up has this light bar at the very top there. I like how this thing looks, super clean, and of course, another nice looking skin to add to your Popstar collection as that grows in size. And with that, we've covered pretty much every item this week. So without further ado, let's flick over to SCMM so we can speculate about price, see exactly where these things will be going in the future, and make some wild guesses about that. That being said, this isn't of course an oracle explaining exactly what's going to happen. I'm just looking at similar items of similar sets, checking out similar collections and things like that so we can make some broad guesses on exactly where these things will go in the future. Nobody can tell the future. It's pretty much just as good as gambling. If you want to buy Rust skins, buy them to play with them. Otherwise, do your own research if you're planning to drop them for hopefully profit in the future. So without further ado, let's flick over to SCMM, which has been pretty happy these past few weeks. So SCMM, here we can see this week's brand new items. Of course, that door, part of the Twitch drops, technically isn't listed here, but weirdly, if you have a look in game in the item store here, you'll see that we have all 10 items here, much like we do in the Rust store online. So anyways, here are the brand new items this week. And of course, it's only been running for 2 hours. No videos have been made yet. Hopefully this one will be the first. So let's have a quick deep dive into where exactly these things might be going in the future, starting off with one of the most promising items, the Island Assault Team Hoodie and Pants. These are part of a growing Island Assault collection, which has been doing fantastically in the past. Everything's gone up, and I can very much expect these two following the same path. Not much to be said here. A nice, clean blackout kit that isn't, of course, a super expensive, perfectly blackout kit. There's still a bit of detail on the armor. These pants and hoodie, while still more gray, are still more than dark enough to vanish very easily. From there, the Sinotype Meds box, another super promising item, has sold probably the most out of all items this week this far, though it's tough to draw lines from this as it's so early still. This Sinotype Meds box for some reason isn't showing as part of the collection here, but if we have a look at similar Sinotype boxes which have come out previously, the Sinotype Firearms box over here has gone up 228% in price, which is huge. This was the first Sinotype box that we saw, and of course there was a Sinotype Ammo box which came out just after this. This thing has been doing super well since it released. It's skyrocketed in price and has stayed where it has since for I think a week at this point. And of course last week's Sinotype Ammo box has seen a similar rise, although it's only been on sale for, at this point, 2 hours, so we can't draw conclusions here. Last week, that item sold 36,300 times, which is huge, which is a minimum estimation of how much it sold, being the best-selling item last week by far. Quickly flicking back to the Sinotype Firearms box, this item sold at least 31,000 times, which is still a pretty big number, meaning if this one sells similarly, we can probably expect it going the same way. Obviously, you're more likely to have these items in your base to keep organization going really well, so they'll be in high demand. Then the Popstar garage door is part of a set. However, this set has primarily been weapons to this point, and they've all lost value. Is not being a weapon enough to make this go up in price? I'm not too sure. I personally like how this thing looks. I like having these anime type doors on my base, so I'll probably be picking it up for that. As for the future price, I'm not too sure. Based on similar items in this collection, we may see a loss in value. However, the garage door being a completely different type, a buildable instead of a weapon, could actually be worth quite a bit more, showcasing more of the actual artwork behind it. It might go up in price, but based on these previous ones, odds aren't too good. Hopefully it does though. Then the Neon Pies fridge. Obviously we saw the Neon Meat fridge, as well as a huge Neon collection before that. Right over here, the Neon Veggies fridge has gone up 30% in value, which was last week's skin. Before that we had the Neon Meat fridge, which isn't here for some reason. If we search for it, however, here you can see this one sold for $2.50 and it's currently selling for about $4 on the Steam market. So we've seen a similar rise here. It isn't meteoric by any means, but it is still a pretty solid increase in price, meaning you'll at least make your money back if you choose to sell it on the Steam market after the Steam market cut. The Veggies fridge did also see a similar rise, and I would very happily assume that the Pies fridge is going to follow in the same direction, gaining about 30% of its value, which is a pretty good amount. The garage doors course, in the neon set, surprisingly lost quite a bit of value. They weren't very popular. The road sign lockers as well surprised me. And of course, the boxes before this point we know have been super expensive, especially some of them. And of course, I would assume the neon Sinotype boxes that we've seen reasonably to release a somewhat similar set to these, at least over time, meaning that those could go up quite a bit in value, hopefully. From there, the After Death AR is a gold AR, being the third worst selling item this week this far. Of course, it isn't part of a collection, so we can't really tell too much here. Yeah, there's no other After Death items, but if we have a look at similar AKs, of which there are 262 of them, almost all of these AR skins as of this year have lost a lot of their value, except for the Heatseeker Sakura, and that's pretty much that for this year. 2024, we saw a similar red across the board, except for very specific ones like the Skull Force, Thunder Gold, Black Diamond. All of these have lost value for the most part, if not just barely kept them in very unique circumstances. We've seen quite a few gold ARs, including the Medieval AR, which is here included in one of the DLCs. Most of these, including the gold-looking ARs, have lost quite a bit of value. Knockoff, Twitch Drop, the Mummy AR is a bit more brown/gold. The Steampunk AR, definitely much closer to what we're looking at here, lost 70% of its value. I really don't see this AK skin or any AK skin nowadays doing well at all, unless it's super unique. This one, personally, I don't think is going to do too well based off of the entire AK market. It's super dangerous to invest in hoping to sell it for a profit in the future, though I could be wrong, especially if it barely sells anything this week, leading to a supply and demand thing going on. I can see there's also a silver variant for this in the background of the screenshot, which we may see at some stage in the future. From there, we've got the Pirate Boots, which is the second worst selling item this week. However, if you have a look at previous items in this set, you can see that wearables here have done super well, as again, these could be some kind of a discounted blackout set. The vest, kilt, helmet all seem to do pretty well. The skull face mask over here isn't too blackout, it's more of a, I guess, niche looking item. Everything except for the weapons here have been doing super well. The Thompson did well as well. Not too sure why. Might be price manipulation or just the fact that few of these exist out there. For the most part, this being another pirate wearable, I assume is going to do pretty well. These ones have gained 20 to 100% of their price, and I'd probably expect the same thing to happen over here, especially if this barely sells at all. For example, if we have a look at, I don't know, the pants over here, you can see that they've slowly been rising and falling in price as years ebb and flow. It seems like there's the biggest price near the middle and the end of the year, which is interesting. And of course, we've seen a pretty big increase in price relatively recently. It's difficult to tell, but I do have a good feeling about these boots. Then, the Stump box, of course, is the least best-selling item this week. It's not part of any set, and here you can see a comparison to the actual Stump, which you can find out in the world. If we have a look at similar storage boxes, for which there's 89 of them in total, a lot of these have lost a lot of their value, except for super unique ones like the Work Crate. The Fancy Orb small box, of course, is part of this week's Twitch drops. All of these other ones have lost quite a bit of their value, except for the greener ones, which seem to be doing relatively well, which is nice to see. I did buy a ton of these Forest Raiders small boxes, so I like to see a small increase in price there. Ultramarine, of course, doing super well. Neon set, obviously, as well. And besides that, nothing too crazy here. Mostly seems like the green small boxes do the best, I assume because you can put them down in a bush and they'll somewhat vanish, making it a bit more difficult for someone to find your loot, assuming nobody's ESPing. For the most part, these box skins that aren't green don't seem to do too well. For the most part, however, we do have a similar camouflage item. While people do run to pick up these logs that lie around the world, this could somewhat vanish inside of a bush. Camouflaging is something similar. It's super unique to see this kind of camouflage going on where it's mirroring another item that you can pick up that spawns out in the world. So if you put down one of these in a bush, especially late wipe, someone might not come over and look at it, especially if they're not currently looking to pick up wood. Pretty cool to think about that. Then the HQM Icepick obviously looks much more blackout than it actually is part of this set over here. Most of these items have lost a lot of their value. The only thing gaining price was the HQM gloves, I assume because they're a blackout type glove and we might not have many of those. However, everything else here is doing pretty shaky. I would assume the same thing to happen over here. The thing about the Icepick as well is that we've barely seen any Icepick skins except for this past 3 weeks, which we've been absolutely flooded with them, with one about every week or so. In the past, most of these have gained a huge amount of value simply because we haven't seen one for the past 7 years, which is crazy. I can see the Impact protocol losing a lot of its price based off of supply and demand. So many people bought, expecting them to sell so well. These ones only sold 4,000, for example. Supply and demand obviously just means that this one will be cheaper, and I would assume if this sells also almost 30,000, it's probably going to go the same way. The Gold Chains Icepick has just gone on sale, so it's super difficult to tell exactly where that one is going, but based on these here, it seems like every week people are buying fewer and fewer ice picks, just as they aren't selling as well as people had hoped. This is the only true darker type ice pick except for the Dark Arts ice pick, which I don't think I've seen before anywhere, so that may be unique enough to make the price go up, in that we've got such a limited number of ice picks that you could literally count them on 2 hands plus a toe. So take from that as you will. It's a unique item, but I don't know if that warrants a higher selling price later. And with that, we've covered all of the items this week. We've estimated prices and had a look at them in game. So that's really that. Hopefully you found this video useful, and of course in the description down below you'll find my next video coming out in just a few hours, where I'll hopefully showing you all of this week's Twitch drops, which I of course would recommend getting, as some of them do look pretty cool. You'll find information on that linked down below as soon as that video is out. So thank you for watching. My name's been Troubleshoot, and of course I'll see you all again next week. Ciao.